Good afternoon. Welcome to the 2022 Black History Month opening ceremony at Stony Brook University. We are delighted that you have joined us this afternoon to acknowledge, honor, and celebrate the rich history of the African American and Black experience. I'm Cheryl Chambers, Associate Dean for Multicultural Affairs, and your host for the first half of this webinar experience, which also is being live streamed to an audience in the Student Activity Center. The second half of today's program will be hosted by Dr. Zebulon Miletsky, professor in the Department of Africana Studies and the Department of History. Together, we chair Stony Brook University's Black History Month Committee. Hello, Dr. Miletsky.
Hello, Cheryl. Hello, Dean Chambers. Good to see you as well, and good to be with everyone today. We're just overjoyed to be together, and I'm really looking forward to today.
Thank you, Dr. Miletsky. We'll talk with you later. We have a wonderful program today and are honored to have one of our very own sea wolves, Franck D. Joseph II, an alumnus of Stony Brook University, joining us to speak on this year's theme for Black History Month, which is Sankofa, social activism. But first, as tradition holds, let us begin with an invocation led by the Reverend Brenda Ford, our Interfaith Center chaplain and director of Protestant Campus Ministry. Welcome, Reverend Ford. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you all to all. Let us prepare ourselves for prayer. Thank you, God. Spirit of abundance, God of grace, Mother of hope, we thank you for this day and this time. We bring ourselves into your presence, and to you we offer our prayers, our praise, and our supplications. We lay before you our theme and all that has been prepared for this day, Sankofa, social activism. This month in our nation, we take time out to celebrate Black History Month and honor the culture of our brothers and sisters. We remember the legacy of those who came before us, who not only clear the way, but carry the bricks on broken backs that built the road. We remember the songs, the stories, and the fiery hope of old men and little girls, granny, midwives, and marvelous musicians, great orators, leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators, those who are earth-toned, brown, black as night, and fair like the sands of Egypt. We thank you for all that you have prepared for this day and this time. We ask a special anointing and blessing upon the speaker, the presenters that are all going to be presenting at this time and this kickoff celebration. We thank you for the resilience and the courage of all who have gathered and the work that you continue to do within us. Continue to strengthen our hands for the journey that lies ahead. Continue to strengthen us as we continue to work towards civic and social justice, and continue to just bless this university and all who have gathered at this time, and all that is holy and all that you have created us to be. We thank you and we praise you. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Ford. As many of you in our viewing audience may know, as a National Heritage Month, Black History Month has been part of our campus and campus life for decades, and made possible with the support from our administrators and so many people across the institution, faculty, staff, and our senior administrators. This has been led by our president. And here today we have with us President Maury McGinnis. We appreciate Dr. McGinnis, your unwavering commitment to diversity and inclusion, and for being here today to give opening remarks for this Black History Month ceremony. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Cheryl, and welcome everyone to this year's Black History Month opening ceremony. So last year in 2021, Stony Brook University Black History Month's theme was Sankofa, Black Creativity. And we celebrated by learning more about the history makers, digital archives, our nation's largest African-American video oral history collection, housed right here at Stony Brook. And I ended last year's welcome remarks with the lines from the poem In This Place, an American lyric by Amanda Gorman, who, as we all remember very well, had just risen to new heights of international attention with her reading at the presidential inauguration. This year's theme is Sankofa, social activism. And I cannot help but think that the two concepts, creativity and social activism, are vitally linked. Edwidge Danicat said, "I am even more certain that to create dangerously is also to create fearlessly." And I believe that this year's theme reflects both the historical triumphs and the bravery and fearlessness of African Americans and people of African descent. At Stony Brook University, we are passionately committed to an inclusive and equitable education. We consider this not just one component of our university mission, but rather a mutually inclusive goal to be a world-class institution capable of changing the world. We cannot be our best without supporting equality, inclusivity, and equity within our central tenets. Stony Brook University and society at large owe much to those African American and Black activists who have fought for social reform, who have built systems and infrastructure for equality and change, and who have been brave enough to speak out against injustice. But we also know that there is so much work to be done, and it is every individual's responsibility to meet their historical moment, to think critically, speak honestly, and act in the service of justice. Dr. A. Breeze Harper, a scholar of critical race studies, feminism, racism in the food system, and veganism, writes, all social inequities are linked. Comprehensive systemic change will happen only if we are aware of these connections and work to bring an end to all inequalities, not just our favorites or the ones that most directly affect our part of the universe. No one is on the sidelines, she reminds us. By our actions or inactions, by our caring or our indifference, we are either part of the problem or part of the solution. I am honored to be here commemorating Black History Month at Stony Brook, where we are defining ourselves by our actions and our caring. I could not think of a better theme for 2022 as we strengthen our collective responsibility to build a better society through civil discourse, civil engagement, and critical action. I am especially grateful to be able to hear the words of today's keynote speaker, Franck D. Joseph II. Mr. Joseph is a Stony Brook alumnus and a dedicated community leader and activist with a career in policy development and community relations in New York City. It is with pride and gratitude for all New Yorkers that Stony Brook has watched Mr. Joseph serve as Deputy Commissioner for Community Relations at the New York City Commission on Human Rights, and most recently in the role of Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor for the Office of the Queens Borough President. Mr. Joseph, thank you for your attendance today, and we all look forward to hearing you speak. Thank you to Cheryl Chambers and Dr. Zebulon Miletsky for emceeing this event, as well as to the Office of Multicultural Affairs, the Department of Africana Studies, and the Black History Month Committee for organizing this ceremony and allowing all of us to join together in Sankofa, social activism.
Thank you. Thank you so much, President McGinnis. We are so appreciative of your ongoing support, commitment to diversity and inclusion, and to building a campus community that is exemplary of these ideals. Now let us turn to another African American tradition. Lift Every Voice and Sing, often called the Black National Anthem, was written in 1899 as a poem by James Weldon Johnson, a leader of the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. Johnson's lyrics eloquently captures the soft, solemn yet hopeful appeal for the liberty of African Americans, set against the religious invocation of God and the promise of freedom. The song was later adopted by the NAACP and, as we know, become a rallying cry in the civil rights movement in the 1950s and the 1960s. Rihanna Bertram, a member of our Stony Brook Gospel Choir and a rising junior health science major, is with us to sing and render this beautiful Black national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. Rihanna, welcome.
Thank you. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee. Lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Oh my, that was absolutely beautiful and quite soul stirring. Thank you for sharing your talent and contributing to this program, Rihanna. We so appreciate Lift Every Voice and Sing. You're truly a songbird. So now we're going to move on to the second half of our program, this Black History Month opening ceremony with Dr. Zebulon Miletsky. Welcome back.
Thank you. I'm still clapping over here. You couldn't hear me, but my goodness, and all the lyrics of that powerful what was once poem and now a song. It just encapsulates everything that we're here for and what this struggle's about. I also really appreciate the Reverend Ford would like to thank you for the prayer and just considering, the words of the song. Drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. My goodness, my goodness. I'm just so grateful again to be here. I want to salute my co-chair, Cheryl Chambers as well. Cheryl, you just have done an amazing job, and it's been a great pleasure working with you thus far. And so we're really, really excited and happy this year to celebrate that theme of Black activism, social activism. The committee was very clear in its planning and its directives to us that they wanted to focus on activism this year. There's been so much going on, as we all know, in our country and in our world. And so it means a lot that we are gathered here. It means a lot that our president is here. And I want to thank President McGinnis. It just means a lot that folks are taking the time out of very, very busy schedules to come together to not only bring their minds, as we often do as Stony Brook, but our hearts, and to just go all in and say, we care. We care. We know that Black life matters, and we know that the issues that we're talking about matter, and social activism matters. And so I just thank everybody. And so along those lines, I want to introduce our next speaker, who in some ways needs no introduction, but because she's sort of famous, but but I'd like to bring to the mic at this point Dr. Judy Brown-Clark, who's the Vice President for Equity and Inclusion and Chief Diversity Officer at Stony Brook University. She's came in as Chief Diversity Officer and VP now, and a rising voice leader, not only at Stony Brook, but in our region. And some things you may not know about Dr. Clark: she holds a bachelor's degree in audiology and speech science, as well as a master's degree in educational administration from Michigan State University. She earned her doctorate in public policy and administration from Western Michigan University, but she was also a track and field athlete who won a silver medal in the 400-meter hurdles at the 1984 Olympic Games. So she's not only here to talk about Black history, she made Black history. So Dr. Clark, we thank you for being here with us right now.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Rihanna. Oh my goodness. It's not easy to sing a cappella, and you did a beautiful job. And it's important to remember that our ancestors and ourselves, many times we're singing alone. And many times we sang our social activism because it was the medium that allowed us to really organize and to give information and so on. And so song within Black history is incredibly important. We worship, we rejoice, we weep, and we celebrate. So thank you so much. And you have the voice of your ancestors. So Black History Month, it's a collective reminder to acknowledge and recognize the contributions of Black people to American history and culture. And annually during this month, we celebrate the accomplishments of Black people while also reflecting on how systems of oppression and harm have often stood in the way of progress. And as an institution of higher learning, it is our duty to acknowledge those who forged the idea and saw the need for Black History Month, and including, of course, Harvard-trained historian Carter G. Woodson and Jesse E. Moreland. And Jesse was a prominent minister who founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, today known as the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. And he also sponsored a National Negro History Week during the second week of February in 1926. Black History Month was first observed by the White House in 1976 when President Ford asked Americans to, quote unquote, seize the opportunity to honor the too often neglected accomplishments of Black Americans in every area of endeavor throughout our history. From that point, every president has recognized February as Black History Month every year. And in 1986, the Congress put the month's special designation into law. And it's interesting as I think about Black history, it's like, this is my lifetime. This is a lot of our lifetimes. And so for young people, it just feels like this historical context, but it was not that long ago. University students played a major role in the national celebration of Black History Month, but was actually preceded by a celebration at Kent State University in 1970. That year, students and faculty began to use the month of February to acknowledge and celebrate Black culture. The movement began with a group called Black United Students, or BUS. You can hear the parallel with Rosa Parks, which met on the university campus. While BUS took part in Woodson's week-long celebrations, the members believed that, because it was just a week-long celebration, that 7 days was inefficient. And then the BUS leaders, Carl Gregory and Dwayne Wright, pushed for an entire month, in which their dean of student affairs, Milton Wilson, eventually approved, and Black History Month instantly became a yearly staple on campus. And I can remember going to college and trying to push the university I was at to then recognize the same way it was being recognized at Kent State. So Kent State really had a pivotal time in the 70s on social activism. So again, Sankofa, social activism, as defined by the program, is designed to increase awareness about the history, legacy of African-American Black experience in the struggle for equity, inclusion, social change, and social justice. It is important for us to recognize Black history as American history. And the accomplishments, advancements, sacrifices, and struggles of Black Americans should not be ignored, misrepresented, or banned, and should be taught fully and truthfully, both in secondary and post-secondary institution. I look forward to hearing from our Stony Brook alumni and key speaker, Franck D. Joseph II. Now, my husband is a 4, so I know to put the numerals on there. So Franck D. Joseph II, we are very grateful for your willingness to participate today and share your professional and personal insight, experiences, and perspective on social activism. Again, thank you, Dr. Zebulon Miletsky and ABD Cheryl Chambers for convening and leading this wonderful month-long of numerous activities and efforts throughout the campus community. It's my honor to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Clark. And thank you for helping to further contextualize that how Black History Month, we often make a shorter description of that, but there's a lot of history in there between, and you captured it. And again, social activism. So thank you so much. You've been a supporter of Black History Month and our efforts, and really our patron in so many ways. We thank you. We just thank you. We would not have had the history makers. I want everyone to know we would not have had history makers here on campus, at least not in the way that we did, or really at all, without your help. So we just thank your office, and we thank your and we can hope that you continue to we continue to work with you. And at this time, I'm going to keep moving the program right along because time is always a factor. We're going to move to a very special treat. We have a student who is a junior at Stony Brook and a biology major, Perpetua Uduba. And she is going to bless us with her poem entitled "To Whom It May Concern," a poem dedicated to addressing prerequisites for social activism, patience, and reflection.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. As was mentioned, my name is Perpetua Uduba, and today I will be reciting one of my original poems that I've entitled "To Whom It May Concern." To preface, I would like to say that the inspiration behind this poem is that very often we tend to think of social activism simply as an act where people must do things based off of what they're told immediately. But I wanted to touch upon the idea of maybe encouraging the idea of patience, reflecting on what has happened before acting. So once again, the title of my poem is To Whom It May Concern, and I will begin. To whom it may concern, give me time, the time of eons, to process the same civil issue, paralleled with a different case, a different place, a different face for another year, once more. To whom it may concern, give me the time of centuries to deliver my opinion on the same civil issue. I've seen it on the news, post after post, newspaper after newspaper, article after article for another year, once more. To whom it may concern, give me time, the time of decades, for I am human. Just as every star waits in the night sky before it shines, just as every flower waits for its season before it blooms, just as every butterfly waits for its moment before it flies. Give me time. Do not mistake my caution for weakness, for my response is in progress. I'll speak volumes for the righteous, but I need time. I'm pondering a solution to an ongoing societal puzzle that has remained unsolved for eons, for centuries, for decades. Thank you.
Wow. Snaps is what, right? The students taught me that. Okay. Wonderful. What a wonderful poem. Thank you so much. And everybody should know that Perpetua is kind of, as you can see, very bright future, but also was the winner last year of the spoken word contest. And I think that's out there somewhere on the internet. People want to look for it. But thank you so much. That's the word, the power of the word. We've heard it all through the ceremony. Now again, spoken word. And it's just, very, very, very uplifting. Speaking of the word, I want to next bring up Dr. Patrice Angan, who is chair of the Africana Studies Department, my chair. And the reason why I mentioned the word is Dr. Angan, Elaine Patrice Angan, is an American writer, poet, and teacher. He's from Cameroon originally and was educated there and in Germany. He was awarded a PhD in comparative literature at the Johann Wolfgang Goethe, if I get that right, my German's a little rusty, sorry, Doc, University. And his work is quite expansive, his writing, and he's written several books, and I would invite you to look them up and check them out. But he is a noted author, thinker, writer, and freedom fighter, who's used and marshaled the power of the word to bring attention to the plight of his people. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Angan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Zebulon, for your very kind words. I will not say a lot, but simply, thank all of you for being here to actually celebrate Blackness. And I think celebration is something that is part of Black cultures across the globe. I actually come from from a group, from a nation, one can say, that gives children a celebration name. So you have specific names you are called when you are celebrated. And mine is Tanu. So the consequence is that when I'm called Tanu, I'm not supposed to be angry. I'm supposed to actually only, be happy and give out gifts. Nowadays, people tend to give out money. So if Zeb, you call me Tanu, expect me to give you money. And if any of you call me that way, expect me to give you something. So I tend not to say that to students, because if they knew that my name is Tanu, my celebration name, it will mean that I'll give out grades each time they call me Tanu. You see, a way of saying that we come from a culture of celebration, and Black History Month is enshrined in that culture. In that culture of actually putting out the best quality of each of us and reminding us that we are capable of doing the best, and actually thanking anybody who does something good, for the person to know that the good is actually worshipped and it is something that we thrive towards. So the Ndop is the name of that name, the Ndop, right? Thanking name and the celebration name. And I'm certain in other African cultures, in Ghana, for instance, you have celebration names, and in Nigeria, you have celebration names. So, and it is an essential part of Black cultures. Having said that, I think whatever I will say will start in the spirit of celebration. I think, of course, our ancestors, and start with those you all know, the largest ones, to the ones who actually passed through our offices. And I'm thinking here of Florence Cash, who passed. And I think it is a moment to also remember the good things she did in a way of propelling her paths towards, the realm of our ancestors. I just wanted to also underline a couple of key points I think are important, or may be important. The first is the globality of Blackness. And it is, of course, very well that Zebulon said that I'm an American writer, because I don't identify like that. I tend to automatically say that I'm a Cameroonian writer. And yet I was expelled from Cameroon, the basis that I am an American. So you see, the globality of Blackness is enshrined in that, in the sense that we all recognize ourselves in some key points, for instance, worshiping the good, for instance, thanking, for instance, celebrating, the beautiful, or celebrating goodness. So the second point I may want to underline is, of course, the theme of our own meeting. It is social activism. I wrote Black activism, and I think it is something that is so deep in my heart that I simply wrote Black activism. And in writing it, I was thinking of certainly agency, of giving the possibility to actually propel Black activism. And our university does it so well, and I'm very much happy, to be able to say that, a couple of that one position has been formalized, a lecturer, and I hope it's going to be, propelled to heights that it deserves. Senior lecturer, and why not, assistant professorship. So a way of thanking for that deed, because it was a long time coming. And of course, the logistics of activism is necessary. And I think being a chair, I can only underline that, because without logistics, it's very difficult to work. So Blackness is not only theoretical, it is indeed something that is meant, that is done in a network, some of which is being displayed here, but most of which is not seen. And I would like to thank Judy Clark here for her mentorship, and indeed for her action in making it possible that we have something called the Black Pulsation series, and where the greatest speakers on earth really come and give us their thoughts and present the things they do, exhibit their work on our walls. So I would like to thank the university and specifically, Judy, for doing that. And so these are the few key points I wanted to mention. Maybe the last one is Black community history. And the way of saying, Zebulon, the work you do is necessary. It's not only good, it's not only important, it's necessary. And I'm very much happy that you are here to present it. And indeed that you put together Black History Month, co-chair it and make sure that it is possible. So Black community history is, of course, coming back, coming in the forefront of scholarship, as you know. And your work is an essential part of it. It is really a cornerstone of that. So a way of saying thank you again, and know that this is our home, this is your home, and I'm happy to also know that the university is a home to all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for those words, and thank you for reminding us that it's one thing to have Black studies or Africana studies, but it requires institutional support, and it requires the kind of support that we see at Stony Brook, that we have, as you mentioned, and it's just crucial. It's a big difference maker, and like I said, it matters. People that are here and people who have committed and made things possible, like what you mentioned, the Black Pulsation. So, speaking of grants and things, next time we meet, I'll have to remember your name, so that you will have to say yes to whatever request I make. And so, no, I'm just kidding. But thank you for sharing that bit of culture and all of it. We thank you so much. And so at this point, we are moving forward. We're going to hear from a very important, one of our student leaders, Victoria Sarita, who is the Vice President of the Undergraduate Student Government. Sarita.
Hi, everyone. I hope you all are doing well today. It's lovely to see everyone, even though I can't see everyone, but it's glad to have the community there gathered today on this very special moment. So to begin, I wanted to say what an amazing start to Black History Month. As a member of the Executive Council of USG, it's my pleasure to be here representing Stony Brook's undergraduate student body. Let us never forget that Black History Month is every month for all of us, but particularly for those who are members of Black communities. As a person of color, I say the word communities in plural to recognize the many dimensions of Black people that make us diverse and not a monolith. This month is about understanding the intersectionality of the Black experience and social activism. Today, I'm honored to introduce an individual committed to social justice and civic engagement, Franck D. Joseph II. He has served, as President McGinnis has mentioned, as the Chief of Staff and Senior Advisor for the Queensborough President in New York City. He has also made major impacts through his work as a member of his local community board and civic association. It's like being in a theater. He's been both on stage addressing individual needs and at the same time in the balcony advocating at the community level. From 2019 to 2021, Mr. Joseph served as Deputy Commissioner for Community Relations at the NYC Commissions on Human Rights, where he led the strategic outreach and personal management for the Community Relations Bureau. In this work, he collaborated with elected officials, business organizations, faith leaders, civic leaders, and others. He has garnered numerous honors and awards, but I will only just name a few for today. Mr. Joseph received the Queen's Impact Award in 2017 and the Haitian Independence Award in 2020. That same year, he has made the City and State magazine's Queen's Heroes list for his COVID-19 response work. In 2019, Mr. Joseph received Stony Brook University's 40 Under 40 Award for his outstanding contributions in civic service and activism. One of our own, He earned a Bachelor's of Arts degree in political science, and we are fortunate to have him as a member of our community. We invite you to post any questions you have for our special guest in the Q&A section. Now, please join me in welcoming Mr. Joseph. Hello, Mr. Joseph. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Victoria. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. Very well said. You said so many great things, and I don't know how I'm going to follow up, so I will try my best. But really thank you for your remarks. Thank you for your leadership with student government. I know it's not easy balancing both hearing from administration on the needs of the campus, but also understanding as a student advocating on behalf of your community, which is the student population, and even talking, when you were speaking, talking about that intersectionality of identities, right, within Black communities. So I feel like between you and Dr. Clark and Tono and so many different other people, and I said Tono because I want some of those gifts that you said, Dr. Angan, but I'm just kidding. But there's so much that was said when we start talking about Black History Month and what we want to do and what we need to do as a community to move the communities forward. And so I will try my very best, but I first want to let you all know that it truly is a privilege and an honor to be in front of you today. And it's not something that I take lightly, being the keynote for Stony Brook's opening ceremony for Black History Month. And because Victoria went into who I am already, I'm not going to dig into any of that, but I want you to know that I am one of you. I'm a person who, sat in the same seats that you sat in the classrooms. I walked the same halls that you walked. I crossed the same parking lot that you had, because I was in Kelly Quad and then Roosevelt Quad. So I crossed the same parking lot that you had to cross when you needed to go to the Student Activity Center. I went to the same SAC events and parties, and sometimes even the union ones as well. I stayed up late in Kelly Dining, chatting with my friends. And, I say that to you all to say that no matter who you are, no matter what your experience is, you can be whoever you want to be. So, you read my bio and heard so much about what I've done and some of the accolades, but one day you who is listening, you can be someone who's speaking to such an audience or any other large audience. And I did graduate Stony Brook University in 2012, so I am not too far removed from you all, so being back as a speaker truly is mind-blowing. I remember when we had such programming and looking at those who were speaking to us and telling us about their lived experiences and just saying like, wow, I hope one day I can just reach a fraction of what they've been able to accomplish. And so now being a person who's here speaking with you, I want you to know that you will be here one day, whoever you are, whatever you want to do, you'll have an opportunity to share your story, to share your experience, and perhaps, engage with people who you can inspire to move the needle a little bit further than you have. And so before going into the meat of what we want to discuss today, I definitely want to thank some of our sponsors and supporters, the offices of the president, the provost, College of Arts and Sciences, Africana Studies, Academic Affairs, Multicultural Affairs, Student Affairs, and we know a host of different student organizations. And as a person who was a president of a student organization, Coalition, was the organization that I was in charge of. We used to shout out CO going in through the hallway. I don't know if you still do that. It was annoying to some people, but I know the importance of the student organizations. And as we talk about the topics of today, we need to also know that it's those organizations that are organizing bodies that are so crucial in this work. And of course, I want to thank Stony Brook University's president, Dr. Maureen McInnes, for her leadership. We have not yet had the opportunity to meet in person. I know the appointment is fairly new and it was a pandemic matter, so it was really difficult to meet in person yet, but I've followed your record and I can say that I'm impressed. And as an alum, I am optimistic about the future of the university in your hands. And of course, thank you to Associate Dean Cheryl Chambers. She's been in constant communication with me throughout this entire process, and to the entire team who's worked on today's program, folks like Dr. Zebulon Miletsky. And thank you, of course, to Kristen Matthews and the entire alumni relations team for keeping myself and other alumni active and engaged, because it's important that we do that as well, right? That we have this pipeline and this connection so that we are all continuously moving forward, knowing what the university needs, what are the needs of the emerging generations, and how can we better make movement based on where we're positioned. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank some faculty and staff who impacted me during my time at Stony Brook University, people like Jeff Barnett, Joseph Robinson, Susan DeMonda, Gerald Stein, Peter Beijing, who I know, rest in peace, is no longer with us. But as we look at this year's Black History Month topic, Sankofa social activism, the question is, what exactly is social activism? Why does it make sense to talk about it? And why am I, Frank Joseph II, I appreciate that, Dr. Clark, not forgetting the second and everybody else as well. Why am I the one speaking about it today? Well, remember what I said when I first started speaking in the beginning, that I'm one of you? The reality is I'm not unique. I'm similar to each and every one of you in different ways. But that's really the beauty about social activism. It doesn't need to be this big thing. You don't need to be an icon. You can simply be you. You're enough to make a change. I was enough to make some changes, to support a few great causes. And I think this is something that many of you, if you want to, can also be a part of. And it's to that end, on how we make our decisions on social activism, regarding social activism, that I want to talk to you today. You see, my life story is about a young man who struggled, utilized his own journey, my own journey, to give back to society. When I was 10 months old, my father, we lived in Brooklyn. I was born in Brooklyn, Kings County Hospital. My father was shot and killed when I was 10 months old. He was coming home from school and someone tried to rob him. And because he did not have enough money, the solution to that person was to shoot and kill him. So this caused me to be raised by my mother, who was a widow, is a widow, and is an immigrant from Haiti. So we struggled a lot. When I was 5 years old, my mom gets hit by a car, and in the OR, in the operating room, they pronounced her dead temporarily. They were able to resuscitate her. But the doctors, first opinion, second opinion, third opinion, the doctor said that she would never be able to walk again. My mother, for the next 3 years of my life, so from the ages of 5 to about 8 years old, was never able to walk. My family was on public assistance. We were housing insecure at one point, which is a fancy way of people saying that I was homeless. I had to live out of a car or out of hotel rooms for a brief period of my life. And, you know, when we did have housing, the government brought caretakers to help my mom. And these caretakers, the home health aides, would come and they would make sure everything in the house was good and everything was fine and dandy. But the reality is they couldn't be there all the time. So when they left, I had to help my mom with everything that she needed. Clothing her, bathing her. I had to help if she had to use the bathroom, number 1 or number 2. I had to go and take the bedpan and roll her over, because remember, she couldn't walk. Roll her over, make her do what she needs to do, and then go and clean out the bedpan, right? And this was all while I was 5, 6, 7 years old. I did well in school early on, even despite all of these hardships. I even went to go to, for those who are not from the city, from New York City, I went to a specialized high school, Brooklyn Tech, which is considered to be one of the top high schools, not just in New York, but also in the country. I decided, because I wanted to go into the medical field, because that's what my father, he's the first, right? And anyone who knows a person who's named after someone else in your family, you either really, really hate the person or you really, really love them. And for me, I had this affinity for my father based on who they said that he was. And so I said I wanted to be this doctor and go into high school with that mentality. But the reality is, when I'm in junior high school, 9/11 happens, right? September 11th. And I begin to see how my classmates, my friends are being treated based on how they look, where they're from or where their family's from, what religion they observe. So that begins to kind of like plant certain seeds. When I go to high school, I begin to learn more about social injustices that are happening right where I am in New York City, the greatest city in the world to me, right? I still believe it is. And so I say, you know what? I want to use my skill set for something I'm in love with. I'm good at science, but do I love it? I'm kind of following another person's dream. And I realized that using my skill set, I was always a leader on the football team, you know, different organizations on campus. I was a known public speaker, a known leader, things of that nature. I said, I want to use my skill set in a way that I think it can make an impact. I decided I wanted to go into public service. So I applied to college to be a political science major, get to Stony Brook University, clearly, as you all know, and I'm very happy. Some struggles do hit. You know, I became somewhat an average academic student, but there were people along the way who believed in me. Some of the folks that I mentioned earlier, like the Joseph Robinsons and the Gerald Steins and the Dean Demandas of the world. And they supported me not just to do well academically, but they also saw my zeal and passion, and they understood my life story. There are folks who supported me and helped me to connect the dots. Why am I sharing this? Because it's important for us to look around us and to see who is doing that for you today, who is believing in you, who is telling you about opportunities, who is being a support for you, because those are things we all need in whatever journey we're gonna go and we're gonna cross. We're not all going to be big time change makers, but can we honor those change makers in our lives? And can we be similar change makers in the lives of others? Because that might be where your activism kicks in. I decided not only to honor those who supported me, but to honor my lived experience, being a person who struggled. I said, I'm gonna give back, right? And I remember a quote that said, be who you needed when you were younger. And so I'm asking you all today, who did you need when you were younger? Be that person. Who do you need now? Become that person. I needed someone to help connect the dots, connect me to resources, ensure that my family didn't have to be housing insecure, that we didn't have to only rely on public assistance, but that we can get up on our feet and move forward, to ensure that just because my mom is a Haitian immigrant, a widow, and may have a heavy accent, that employers would not treat her differently. That when she walked around with a limp because she said, hey, you know, I at one point in my life was not able to walk, that people are not discriminating against her based on ableism. I wanted to be that type of person. And ultimately, I sit here before you today, sharing that brief synopsis of my life. And I don't share it because it's an amazing story, but I share it because I want to show you all how ordinary it is to make a change, how ordinary I am. Some of the stories I shared, some of you may be able to relate to some of that, right? And so when we think about those who are examples to us, sometimes we think about the far-reaching examples, which we need to, but we need to also remember that even those great icons are just regular people. But one thing that they've done is they decided on something. They made decisions. So what decisions are you making today? What decisions am I making today? I think about that all the time. What is your lived experience? How can your lived experiences, your academic experiences, your work experience, if you have them or when you attain them, how will all of those shape you, determine what you do, and determine how you give back? Through my work in public service and government, being a chief of staff at the New York City Council for a city council member, being a deputy, and when I was that, I was the youngest chief of staff in the entire state of New York on any level of government. It was like right when I was in my mid-20s, a little before my mid-20s, became a deputy commissioner for the city of New York for an agency. I was the youngest deputy commissioner in the city at that time, right? It was before I was 30, I'm 31 now. And then became chief of staff and senior advisor to a borough president overseeing an entire county, right? A county of 2.4 million New Yorkers, that if the county was its own state, it would be, I believe, the 12th most populous state in the country, right? But through that work, I decided I want to work on social activism. I want to help with marches and rallies, that when I see my AAPI, my Asian American and Pacific Islander brothers and sisters being attacked because of how they identify, that we can come together and say, no, Black communities and AAPI communities stand together, that if you attack one of us, you attack all of us. Working at the Commission on Human Rights, working on a bias response team that would go out into communities when people were spat on because of the fact that they were wearing a hijab or a yarmulke, or people tried to physically assault them in other ways, that we can come in, we can investigate, we can work with our other law enforcement counterparts, NYPD, and we can say, what's the best response? Because not everyone wants a criminal response. Sometimes people want a civil law enforcement response, which is where my agency came in, right? Doing that, working on a policy with so many great colleagues of mine, powerful Black women who spoke about their experiences with hair discrimination. When I was at the Commission on Human Rights, we were the first government jurisdiction in the world to say that discrimination based on hair, your natural hairstyle, if you have your Bantu knots, if you have your braids, if you have locks, if you have a taper like me, if you're hating on the waves, that type of discrimination, hair discrimination, is a form of racial discrimination. And after we enacted that policy and people across the world were speaking to us, California and the state of New York said, okay, we don't want it just to be policy, we want it to be legislation, right? We want it to be the law, not just an interpretation of the law. And so that was amazing. Or funding opportunities, working with organizations to identify homeowners, because I was housing insecure. How do we now help make people who are low income or working class become homeowners, right? Not just creating affordable housing, which is amazing, but creating affordable home ownership, because for many communities like mine, home ownership is the way to get wealth, generational wealth, to pass it down to your children, grandchildren, your nephews, nieces, whomever, right? So working on those, working on environmental justice issues, right? Working on diversity, equity, and inclusion issues to ensure that when we're contracting out these big, thousands of dollars or millions of dollars contracts to different vendors to help the city, what percentage of those vendors are what we consider MWBE, minority or women-owned businesses and enterprises? Ensuring that city dollars, your taxpayer dollars, are not just going to those who are already well-connected, but can even go to the small business owners who are oftentimes from immigrant communities and immigrant communities of color at that. So looking into that work, but I did all of that because it was about my experience, what I dealt with, and wanting to make sure others don't have to deal with it, don't have to have the same hardship, don't need to trip up the way that I tripped up. Opening doors for the next generation, which is why I love working with Stony Brook's Alumni Association, because how do we reach back out? Because so many other people, the Patrick Jenkins of the world, reached back out and said, how can I help you? Right? That's another Stony Brook alum that I just said his name. So the work that I've done has always been personal to me. My social activism has always been personal to me. And I think for many people, it's personal. But we need to understand, for me, I needed to understand how society sees me, who they believe that I am, but also have an understanding of who I truly am, because there are times society will misrepresent me. So vantage point is crucial. Understanding the lens of others, but also taking a deep dive and saying, who am I? What is my story? How do I see myself? So whether it's social activism or Black activism, as the doctor said, what is it? It's being persistent and tenacious. It's being kind in the midst of problems. It's having grace even when you're in the middle of a fire. Social activism is working with other people to bring about a change in society and going against the status quo. And when I look at the dictionary, it doesn't say whether it's good or bad. So it means that social activism can be either good or bad, right? And that's something for us to think about. Because when we look at people in this society today who are fighting for things that we feel, hey, you must be looking at things through a different lens. It kind of seems like an alternate reality, kind of seems like you're trying to make us regress back to the days when women couldn't decide for their own selves, right? Like you're trying to bring us back to those days. You're trying to bring us back to the days when minorities did not have the same access to universities as other people. You're trying to bring us back to those days when I would not be afforded the opportunity to vote. It seems like some people are trying to do that, but for them, they view that as activism, right? And I know that's not popular to talk about, but I think we have to first understand the psyche and the understanding of others so that now we can meet folks at the table and really begin to make change, right? And so while I have my form of social activism, which I believe is rooted in equity and justice, other people may think the same thing based on their lived experience. That's why these forms of short storytelling is so important, so that we can ensure that as we're sharing stories, we don't only share the stories, but now we can unpack them and begin to look at the facts, right? Not just the story, but what's the reality within that story. That's the way towards progression and not regression, right? So it's that same good social activism, the good kind, the good trouble that deceased Honorable Congressmember John Lewis spoke about. It's that good trouble that combats inequities and hate, things like racism, that we can try to root it out and call it out whenever we see it. I think about, just this week, Brian Flores, who's a former NFL head coach, who is Black and is alleging that there have been discriminatory practices in NFL hiring. I mean, you can just look at it in the percentages. There's a league that 70% of the players are Black, but only one coach, there are 32 teams, one coach is currently a head coach. Now, I'll be fair to the NFL. There are 5 vacancies. So not all 32 are filled yet. But out of the 27 that are filled, only one of those coaches is Black. So when you tell me that we got the best person for the job, you're telling me in a league where 70% of the players are Black and usually want to go into coaching and want to continue to contribute in the sport when they could no longer do it physically, they want to do it behind the table, they want to coach. You're telling me in that league, only 2%, 3% of the coaches are Black? Does that make sense? But he wasn't the first one. In baseball, we had similar issues. We've seen people like Rosa Parks. When we think of social activism, we know her story. But it wasn't just Rosa Parks. It was Claudette Colvin before Rosa Parks who decided not to get up. And because of Claudette Colvin not getting up, Rosa Parks was inspired to not get up. And then we had the Montgomery bus boycott. Why do I share that? I share that to say, when we each take a stand, we may not be the direct catalyst, but we might inspire the one who will be the direct catalyst. We look at Rosa Parks as we should, but Rosa Parks was looking at Claudette. So I may not be the one who makes the monumental change when it comes to Black activism and social activism, but if I can do my part, maybe I'll inspire that person who could be the bigger change maker, just doing my part here where I am. And I'll conclude really quickly, but just thinking about those things, for me, it tells me that we have so much work to do. And Dr. Judith Brown Clark said it best when after Rihanna spoke and sang and sang the Black national anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, which I co-sign 100%. It was amazing singing. And that is another form of social activism. But did you know that even a song that we sing, such as Happy Birthday, is a song of protest and activism? Now, the version I'm talking about is the Stevie Wonder version that has a little more bop and step to it. But Stevie Wonder wrote his version of Happy Birthday because the United States governor and government and many different states within the US did not want to honor Dr. King Day. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who we just honored recently and everyone was singing him praises, they did not want to honor him. Just not too long ago, about 50 years ago or so, they didn't want to honor him. So he created the song where he says, it doesn't make much sense. There ought to be a law against anyone who takes offense at a day in your celebration. Because we all know in our minds that there ought to be a time that we can set aside to show just how much we love you. And I'm sure you would agree, it couldn't fit more perfectly than to have a world party on the day you came to be. Happy birthday to you. It was a song to Dr. King after his passing, so the world could honor him, so we could think about his example. Stevie Wonder wrote that song. Now we think about Dr. King and his work in social activism, Black activism, and justice on his day, and we have a long way to go. These are huge examples of social activism, but not all of us may do it in a big way. As we said before, some of us may do it in our own way, in our own universe, and that's okay. We're not all meant to be on the mic. We're not all meant to forego a meal. We're not all meant to go to jail. I know some of those things I don't think were for me. I don't think I would forego a meal. Maybe I would, who knows? But there are different roles within activism. You can be a change agent. You can be a reformer. You can just be that citizen who's doing their part. But the main thing is you are pushing to make a more just and equitable society. But in doing it, I think the best change agents, the best social activists are those who draw from what they know. So reflect on it. What are the injustices that you've seen? What are the things that anger you, make you upset? You don't need to be defined by that suffering and pain. You can go against all odds and you can make that the catalyst that moves you in a direction, whether it be through a song, through a poem, through a powerful speech, through the work that you do day in and day out, through the way that you teach your students, one that does not erase history. You can be that change agent. You can be that reformer. You can be that revolutionary. You can be that social activist. You can be that Black activist. You can be that great ally. There's always risk in it, but I say the reward far outweighs the risk. For one day, I hope to see what Dr. King saw, where we do have that just society. And my work is to continue to do that. And I hope that many of you who are listening, that you decide to do it wherever you are, in the OR, because Black maternal mortality is a real thing, in the school system or wherever else. Do your part. Thank you so much, everyone, and happy Black History Month to you all.
Happy Black History Month to you, sir. Thank you very much. That was just wonderful. That was a lot in there, and I don't want to. I'm tempted to ask and point out a couple things, because this was just very, very powerful. Thank you for sharing your journey, and thank you for sharing your early experiences. It will stay with, I think, with me and with many of us probably for quite some time to come. But you know, you really, really helped us to define a Black activism, social activism. You mentioned the Human Rights Commission. You mentioned, and everyone should know that some of these things that have been said are prosecutable sometimes as hate crimes. But as you pointed out, not every, there's different ways to approach it. And we are backlogged. We are very we must be backlogged after these several years. And so there's a great need for justice. And so anyway, yeah, you said it all. I really appreciate it. And I think I know my students who are on as well. I want to shout out to AFS 101. Students who are on, we're most definitely inspired and will be uplifted by your words. Some of our colleagues, thinking Linda Perdomo Ayala, who's probably watching and who's worked in some of these areas. And this is just very, very uplifting. And so thank you for bringing us through that. I just wrote down a couple things. Having grace even when you're in a fire. Yeah, this is great. And so I can see now why, Cheryl, why you were very, we're advocating to bring our keynote speaker today, and why I think we may have heard from, first Black governor of New York or something. Who knows? But the future is bright, and I know we'll be watching. So thank you so much. And so I Cheryl, want to bring you back on to say anything you may want to say, but also as we go into the Q&A and all that stuff.
Thank you so much, Zebulon and Dr. Miletsky. And thank you also, Franck Joseph, for this very rich discussion and sharing your life story, your lived experiences, and drawing those connections for us so that we can better understand social activism and as this continuum, if you will, and multifaceted continuum that it is. So we have a couple of questions that we have received here, quite a few actually. And I wanted to put forth some of those to you, Frank, that people are asking, and want to know your thoughts about this. One person wrote that this, this work can be overwhelming when you look at it, time consuming and challenging, draining, building coalitions and solving problems and persisting and getting information, etc. Yeah. So the person was asking, how do you balance managing all of that with with really the vision, and keeping the vision in front of you. How does one, do that? Stay grounded.
That's a great question. I think it's important to not stay in silos. It's important to ensure that with the people that you're working with, right, the people who are part of whatever movement you may be a part of, that you're able to speak authentically to each other. Everything doesn't have to be about the problem at hand, right? You need to take time to enjoy the beauty of life as well. And I think that's part of it. And, when you watch the documentaries of Dr. King or Malcolm X, you'll see like, yes, they were protesting, they were marching, but they were playing pool with their friends. They were relaxing. That time to like decompress, right? And making sure that there is that balance. And I think it's just making it. A city council member told me something one time. He was going back to school, I believe, for his doctorate. And I was like, "You're a city council member. Like, why? What inspired you to go back?" He said, "Because when I'm no longer here, things will keep moving. Someone else will pick up the mantle. So I need to ensure that as I'm doing what I need to do, that I'm also enriching myself." So I think for me, that balance has been that I want to do the work that I want to do because it's so personal, but also understanding that the work doesn't live or die with Frank Joseph. And so Frank Joseph needs to, like, I need to ensure that I'm good. So whether it's, Victoria or Rihanna or Dr. Miletsky or whoever, we all need to take that step back sometimes and say, okay, I need to make sure I'm taking care of myself. I'll leave you with this quote that says, "You can't pour from an empty cup." So if I'm empty, what am I pouring into your cup?
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Yeah. Another question that's been posed to you is, what do you think needs to happen for us to move forward in achieving racial justice in this country?
Ooh, and that is heavy. And I think a lot of people are working towards that. Ultimately, we need to understand the system that we're in, right? And our system is twofold: understanding the political system, so seeing more diverse representation across the spectrum. That includes on the Supreme Court, I'll say that. That includes in the halls of Congress, in both houses, right? The House of Representatives, as well as the US Senate. That includes the cabinets. Also economically, our system, right? Western civilization as a whole, is based on the economy. And so how do we also ensure that we're raising the tide for communities that have long been titled low-income communities, right? When you think of low, like, not to put stereotypes, but close your eyes and think of low income, think of poverty, think of struggle. There are groups of people that went into your mind. And some of those people might look like me. How do we now say, how do I move those people from that category to another category? I think both looking at politically and also looking at the economy, that is how we really get to the justice. And this is not me pushing for any form of capitalism or any of that. I'm saying we just need to ensure that there is equity in everything that we're doing. When we spoke about the NFL, there are no African-American owners in the NFL. So no wonder that you don't see any coaches at that level. No wonder that for years they would say Black people are not smart enough to be quarterback in the NFL. Because the people making those decisions don't look like the folks with the talent. So we need to ensure that we have people positioned in high places and with deep pockets. So let's support each other in that way.
Yeah, thank you. Very, very, very rich. Indeed, yes. Thank you so much for taking, this complex, notion of activism and really breaking it down for us where we can understand on an individual basis that we can take steps. So this is a final question in the time we have here, be cognizant of the time, of course, is from a student who just wanted to know where do they begin? There is a senior who indicated that they are getting ready to graduate. and they want to not only just move into, a career and profession, but they want to make a difference and be a change maker. How do they start? What are some basic steps that you could advise that they take?
Now, that's a great question. I think you need whatever industry you want to go apart. If it's in government, if it's in nursing, if it's in education, wherever it is, find out who the players are. Who are the local players where you are? Who are the stakeholders? Who are the folks who hold the positions? And begin to speak to them, reach out to them. You'll be surprised. A lot of people are willing to pick up the phone, give you a 15-minute conversation, give you a 15-minute Zoom now, and speak. And I think let your story, let your reason for wanting to do the work speak for itself, and just find out about people's, their journeys, and it'll help you connect the dots. But the first step is definitely to find out who those stakeholders are. If I could be of any help, it's something that I love doing. I love to, make sure that we're all climbing up together. Please let me know. My email is fdj@frankdjoseph.com. You can email that, and I'll be more than happy to help however I can, particularly if it's in the public service arena, and feel free to reach out to any faculty or staff for my information as well.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for answering those questions. As we move forward, we will want to thank so many people. First, starting with many speakers this afternoon who have been on this program. Reverend Ford, Dr. Angan, our students, Perpetua and Victoria, and certainly, last but not least, our President Maury McGinnis, and our Chief Diversity Officer and Vice President for Equity and Inclusion, Dr. Judy Brown Clark. We are so grateful also to our guest, our speaker, Keynote, Franck Joseph II. Thank you so much, Frank, for sharing so much and advising us and providing guidance on this topic. And there are even others who we want to thank as well. There are many departments and areas of the university, as you can see, that have all come together to make this program possible. And we want to express our gratitude to them. And they're listed on the screen as you can see there. Special thanks to Nakia Drago and New Student Programs Office, our Marketing Communications area, and obviously with the support of the Office of the President and various offices and alumni relations, without whom this program would not have been possible and Frank would not have been here. Too many people and individuals to say thank you, but thank you is in order nonetheless for everything. And specifically in multicultural affairs, in the area that I work in, I do want to thank Maxine Moylan and Judy Jaquez. A great deal of behind the scenes work happens and for these types of programs, and we're grateful to them. The Black History Month Committee has been, meeting ever since last year in planning, for this occasion. And it really is a village, a Stony Brook village of sea wolves, faculty, staff, and students, as you can see listed here, who deliberate and really laser focus in on the theme, content, and we just can't thank them enough, and for their work behind the scenes and in front of the scenes as well. And we want to just tell you before we conclude this afternoon about programs that will be happening throughout the month that you can participate in. This is just the beginning. Our Stony Brook Village through FSA, our Faculty Student Association, the Stoller Center, Unity Cultural Center, WSB FM, radio, our Black and Latino Alumni Network. These are just some examples of event highlights and areas of the university that come together and collaborate and plan and offer these programs for education and social and cultural enrichment for us all. You can visit stonybrook.edu/BHM, which is the Black History Month website, for calendar information, which we update on a regular basis as new programs and events come in from our clubs and organizations in various areas of the university. Yeah. And we want to let you know also about scholarship opportunities. Those of you who are students who are on here, there are 2 scholarships that are presented during Black History Month. The Dr. William McAdoo Scholarship, Memorial Scholarship. Dr. McAdoo was the first chair of the Africana Studies department, and this scholarship is named for him. And the Ralph Watkins Memorial Scholarship. And Mr. Watkins was engaged in a number of areas across campus in the 70s. I'm sorry, in the 70s and in the 80s. And there's a scholarship, memorial scholarship named for him. He was involved in EOP and a number of other areas. The website to apply, and the deadline is this Friday, is stonybrook.edu/OEA. Each of these is $500. And you can visit the Office of Equity and Access's website for the application. Okay. So this concludes our time together this afternoon. And on behalf of the Black History Month Committee, and actually the entire university community, and certainly my partner, Dr. Zebulon Miletsky. Yes, Zebulon. We thank you. We thank you for spending this time with us. And we especially want to once again applaud and express our gratitude to Franck Joseph II.
You're here.
An alumnus, Seawolf, social activist, and really a role model and an inspiration for all of us. Thank you so much. And to everyone, stay safe and enjoy Black History Month. We look forward to seeing you next year during this time. Bye-bye now.
Hi, everyone. Take care.